What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul. You know what time it is? Time for another CGC unboxing. I just received this a few days ago. I'm waiting to open it on camera. This is a box of modern keys. Modern in the CGC definition, which means post 1974. So there are actually a couple books, I think maybe as far back as 77 in here. So we'll check them out together. I have peeped the grades, so I know what I'm getting. But I'm thrilled. So you're still gonna see some excitement from me because generally this whole box came back at or better than my estimated grades on all these books. Really just 2 or 3, this is 25 book submission. There were 2 or 3 that came back at the low end of my range, my estimated range when I sent them in. And then there were 2 or 3 that came back way above my estimated range. And everything else right in. So right in line with what my expectations were. I know with the expansion at CGC and the acquisition by the investment banking group that there's some concern among some in the community that the grading is gonna suffer or is already suffering. I did not experience that with this shipment. Also, this shipment was submitted 4/28, mailed off, received back to me 7/24. So less than 3 months total time, including transit to and from. That's actually pretty reasonable. Well less than 90 days in their hands. So that's the sort of preamble to what we have, and let's jump right in. It does not look like these are in the order that I subbed them in, so I may be jumping around just a little bit here. So bear with me on that. I'm also going to create a little bit of space for myself here. Here we go. All right, what do we have here? This is Marvel Spotlight, Volume 2, Number 6. Why do we care? Origin and first comic book appearance of Star-Lord, Peter Jason Quill. I subbed 2 of these books. One is mine, and that's this one, a 9.6. It came back, and the other one is not mine. I subbed it on behalf of a client. I noticed they're not together here, so let me just dig and get it out. This one came back a 9.4. I'm actually especially proud of this one because I think it was like a legit 7.5 or 8 before I pressed it. So I'm really happy with that being a 9.4, and the customer's extremely happy. So the 9.6 will go into my PC. Fair market value on, let's see, on the 9.6 is about 260 bucks. On the 9.4 is about 210. Only about 750 of those in the census. So not a super common book for somebody that's a mainstay in the MCU, really. All right, what do we have next? Moon Knight. Moon Knight number 1, 1980. Part 1 of the origin of Moon Knight, first appearance of Raoul Bushman. So 2 of these, both in 9.2. Let me dig the other one out. Here we go. Happy with those grades. Again, they're at or above the estimates that I wrote down before I sent it off. 8,200 copies of that book in the census total. A lot of copies. That was a heavily printed book. That was in the era 1980 when books were much more heavily printed than they are today. Because of that, a 9.2 only has a fair market value of about $150. So those are books though that I purchased for 10 or 20 bucks. pressed them up, subbed them. So I'm happy to take those, in 9.2's. Again, the grade, they both started as 6s, 7s, maybe 8s at best, and I pressed them up. Usagi Yojimbo, number 1, in an 8.5 from Fantagraphics. This is the first solo title, and has the CGC notes say Tinkle Drop backup story. Very happy with this. This was about a 6.5 that I pressed up. This is a book that I love, and I know like that nostalgia is really kicking in for these books. This is 1987 from the late 80s, especially the indies. Let's see, total in the census 950. Fair market value for the 8.5 is 325. I'm not going to make a whole bunch of money on that. I think I paid over 200 for it, but I have one higher grade copy, so I was happy to press that up and move it on to somebody else's collection. Speaking of books from the 80s, Savage She-Hulk number 1 from 1980 in an 8.5. This is, again, right in the line with my estimate. This is, of course, the origin and first appearance of Jennifer Walters. So, great book to have in your PC, especially with Jennifer Walters coming to the MCU and the new trailer we just saw. I love the actress. She's we watched her in another series, and I'm blanking on the name of it right now. I'm sure you guys will tell me in the comments. But she's great. I have high expectations for this. This is a book that I had 3 or 4 copies of. This is a nice grade for the book. Again, I'll be moving it on to somebody for their PC. Savage She-Hulk 1. This is another book. Wow, 11,700 copies in the CGC census. 8.5, fair market value about $250. I'm sure that's only going up as the hype builds for the show. Speaking of speculation for the MCU, here's another great book, Captain America 354 in a 9.4. This is from 1989. Interestingly enough, as a 9.4, it doesn't have a great fair market value. I think, let me check this one real quick. $90 is what I have listed as the fair market value. Interestingly, I have only 641 of these entered into the census. Not sure if that's right. That sounds a little low. At any rate, obviously this is the first appearance of U.S. Agent, first appearance of John Walker as U.S. Agent, and you get Battlestar appearance as well. This is the newsstand. So I think even though fair market value of this is less than $100 generally, by now the newsstand is actually starting to be less in this, fewer in distribution than the direct. And this is a tough cover to get a 9.4 on. So I am actually happy to hold this for a little while and let it appreciate a little bit with the expectation that John Walker's coming back. He's probably going to be U.S. Agent because he's not going to be Cap, and he's probably going to be a anchor in the Thunderbolts. So, speaking of up and coming MCU, I subbed multiple copies of this book, Black Panther number 2. This is first appearance of Shuri, who I am sure is going to be Black Panther in the next movie. So, I subbed, I think, 4 total copies of this book. One came back a 9.4, maybe two did. Fair market value on that one's 210. Two came back 9.6s. 1, 2. Fair market value on those, 250 bucks. 1,800 copies of this book in the census. And lastly, one came back a 9.8. Boom. So these were all raws, obviously, that I pressed. I picked them up between 150 and 300 bucks a piece, hoping to hit that 9.8, which I did. Fair market value on the 9.8 is, am I reading from the right? $525. So that snuck in under the modern tier because CGC technically could have bumped that up to standard and sent it back to me early and charged me a bit more if they wanted to be aggressive about it. 800 9.8's in the census out of the 1,800 total copies in the census. All right, more speculation. Point one, number one in 2012 in a 9.6. Obviously, first appearance of Nova. Obviously not Richard Rider, but Sam Alexander. This is the standard cover. I'm not sure. I think I was anywhere from a 9.4 to a 9.8 on this one, so 9.6 seems fair. Fair market value on that is about 150 bucks. There's about 1,000 of them in the census. Yeah, I guess my estimate on it was 9.2 to 9.6, so I didn't expect a 9.8 on that. So let's pick off a couple more singles here. This is such an incredible looking cover. Brightest Day number 4 from 2010. This is the Reese 1 in 25 variant cover with the zombified Hawkman and Hawkwoman. Just incredible. So this is the first appearance of the new Aqualad, I believe. It's not on the CGC label, so double check me. But it's another one that I picked up in the local comic bins for not a lot of money. Maybe it was 10 bucks, maybe it was 15. It does not have, I don't know what the fair market value on that is. There just haven't been enough 9.8's change hand. There are only 50 total in the census, 39 9.8's. So I'm gonna hold it for a while anyway on speculation with Aqualad, so we'll see what happens. Here's another spec book, Young Heroes, Astonishing Ant-Man number 6 from 2016 in the 9.8. This one I actually picked up literally in the quarter bin, so this is a big win for me. That is first Cassie Lang as Stature, I'm pretty sure. We're gonna get the Young Avengers. She's almost certainly gonna be there. Already in the MCU, obviously. So right now, I don't know what the, it's kind of a blue water type investment. There's no FOMO around that right now. So fair market value is only 140 bucks, even though there are only 70 total in the census and only 45 of those in 9.8. So I'll be holding that one as well for speculation to pay off. All right. Oh, these are my brother's books. Let me pull them out in order. Yeah, these are actually, all these are not my books. Wolverine Limited Series number 1 from 1982. I remember buying this off the spinner rack. This is a copy, obviously, my brother picked up at a later date because he wanted to be able to read these over and over again, so he asked my mom to laminate his newsstand copies. I think he might still have them laminated. So he picked these up, and these were like all 7.5 to 8.85. I did a lot of work. These were pressed over and over again to get them up to higher grades. So that one's the 9.0. Number 2 is a 9.4 newsstand. And on the 9.0, there's a ton of those in the census. 18,000 in the census. But it's a very desirable book. So even in the 9.0, and even though there's 18,000 in the census, $220 is fair market value on number 1, and $95 in a 9.4 for fair market value for number 2. And then here's number 3, another newsstand. This one in a 9.0. Not a lot of fair market value there. Again, it's going to be, slightly sub 100, but that wasn't why he wanted these slabbed. He wanted these slabbed because it's his favorite character. This was one of his favorite series. This 9.2 I'm most proud of because this one, some kid had put maybe trace paper, copy paper over this, and they had traced the entire Wolverine. And I spent days pressing this and getting all those indentations out. So that one I earned. Even in it, again, well, there's fewer in the census. Number 1 had 18,000 in the census. Number 2, 6,000. Number 3, 5,600. Number 4, 5,300. Fair market value on a 9.2 of number 4 is really only like $65. But again, that's not why he got those. This is also not my book. This is a book that I subbed for my friend Regina. Batman Harley Quinn, the No Number. This is the first Harley Quinn canonically in the DCU, or rather in the comics. And I didn't have to do much to this one. Pulled off a 9.6. This is cardstock. This is square bound, almost like a small graphic novel. So the covers on these, they're either in pretty good shape or they're not, and there isn't much you can do about it if they're not. But then again, they're often very nice. So 9.6, she's thrilled with that. I think fair market value on that is pretty strong. $250, 2,600 of them in the census. All right, what else we got? All right, getting down to some, I've been cherry picking ones that I wanted to share last. So up next, I got 2 copies of this book. Star Wars number 2 from 1977. This is, of course, the first appearance of Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's just Ben now. But I was able to get a couple copies of this and clean and press them and sub them. They're a little bit late for the hype around the Disney Plus series, but I loved that series. Obviously loved the long-term prospect of the character. Was happy to get 9.0s in both of these because I think they were in the 6 to 8 range. I've got one more copy when I got them. $170 is fair market value, and 3,000 copies of each of these in the census. So 1, 2 of those. All right. Now, getting down to the most interesting books. I will start with this one. All right. Fantasy Quarterly, number 1. Spring 1978. First Elf Quest. In black and white. Pure genius from Wendy and Richard Pini. And I'm buying this book raw. It's an interesting book. It is saddle stitched, but there's no staple. It's actually glued, the pages. So it is, I think, kind of a tough book. It's also does not have a glossy cover. The cover is a matte cover, and you see that it's only a couple colors. It's not the normal coloring process comic book, and so it's got some special considerations for pressing, for sure. At any rate, happy to get back this 9.2. The census on Fantasy Quarterly is 400 total, and I did not write down how many 9.8's there were. I should have, but I have 3 copies in here. Here's a 9.4. And the fair market value on the 9.2 is $500. On the 9.4 is $625. So CGC could have bumped both of those up to standard on me. They didn't. The one that they probably should have is that bad boy. Boom. Fantasy Quarterly #1 in the 9.8. First appearance of ElfQuest. Thrilled to get a 9.8 on this. I was a huge fan of ElfQuest as a child, as was my brother, and have read these books over and over again, read these books to my children, love them. Thrilled with this. This one's in the PC, it's not going anywhere. So that was one of the books in this submission that I was just over the moon about getting a 9.8 on. Fair market value on the 9.8 is $1,750. So again, probably could have got kicked to standard. I'm glad it didn't, but I would have been okay with it. And last book from this sub, Spider-Gwen #0, the second printing in a 9.8. This is another book that I was thrilled to get a 9.8 on, because this is a cardstock. It's a very thick book. It reprints the Edge of Spider-Verse first appearance of Spider-Gwen, and then also has some new material. So it's much thicker than a normal comic. It has cardstock, which, as I mentioned before, you know, it is more sturdy, but when it does pick up a spine tick, very difficult to press out. I pressed this book 6 different times, trying to get, it had a spine tick up here, trying to get that spine tick out. Obviously I was successful, and I'm thrilled also with this one. So these, I saved obviously the best 2 for last. But Spider-Gwen #0, second printing. This is was a very short printed book. If only these were organized in the same order that I subbed them in, I could find them on my list quickly. There it is. So only 50 of these in the census, only 34 in 9.8. I own 2 of them now. Fair market value on this is $725, but they're not really selling for that. That's just the last sale. Most people are holding on to these. I've seen people asking over $2,000 for raws, because this is a modern Ghost. It is the lowest printed of all of the different printings of Edge of Spider-Verse 2, the first appearance of Spider-Gwen. Spider-Gwen is a huge following, and obviously, you know, is going to continue to be in the animation, will eventually make it to live action. And so this book is another one. I'm not in a hurry to sell this at $725, I'll tell you that. This will stay in my PC until I feel like it's actually going for what it should be in terms of it being the least printed. I think Edge of Spider-Verse was printed like 9 times total, I want to say. I think there are 7 printings of Edge of Spider-Verse 2, and then it was reprinted in Spider-Gwen 0, and then reprinted again in the second print of Spider-Gwen 0. So don't quote me, correct me in the comments, but I think maybe a total of 9 printings. This is by far the one that has the fewest in the census. So over the moon again to get a 9.8 on that one. So there you have it. Another successful submission to CGC. Again, I was very happy with the grades. They came back right in line with my expectations. I think timing on these books is pretty good. I would have liked to get the Obi-Wan first appearances back a little sooner, but it is what it is. I subbed them when I did. Also, CGC being door-to-door less than 3 months for Modern Economy is actually, considering how long it took last year and the year before, really phenomenal. And as far as I can tell, the quality assurance has not suffered at all. So I'm happy to see them moving books more quickly and getting them graded, getting them back to folks. And so overall, very happy with this submission process. A few books that I'm just thrilled to have gotten the grades that I got on, and a whole bunch of books that, I improved the value of quite a bit because I, bought raw 6, 7, 8s, maybe 9s, and cleaned and pressed them, sometimes pressed them 6, 7, 8 times, and subbed them to CGC, and created a lot more value. Also, sending them this way, sending them economy, sending them 25 at a time, minimizes the shipping to and from, so that my total amount, my cost for slabbing each of these books, I estimated about $25, which also, that's after the CGC price increase, is very reasonable, right? When you can find a book for 10 or 20 bucks, spend some time on it, which is a hobby which you enjoy, and then invest another 25 in slabbing, and you can get an asset back that's worth anywhere from $100 up to $1,700 in today's market. That's a pretty good day, and that's a great way to make your hobby pay for itself, right? So most of these books, as you guys know, I'm mostly focused on golden, silver age books. Most of these books will go up for sale. A few of them, I do collect modern keys, and so a few of these will stay in my collection. A few of them I will slow roll out because I think they're speculation books and the timing hasn't really come yet for some of these characters. But most of these will be offered either through short boxed, which is my primary way of selling, or IG, person to person, or occasionally eBay. So at any rate, appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope you enjoy the hunt, and take care of one another. We'll see you soon.